Hello, everyone, and welcome to our listeners who are watching this in a replay. We're so glad you're here, and this is kind of new and different that I am broadcasting instead of in my group, which you guys are all welcome to join. Usually I broadcast in my group, Overcoming. What is my group called? Overcoming Religious Abuse. Community online, so you guys are welcome to join that. I'm broadcasting live on my Facebook page. I'm going to be doing a little bit more of this, which I think is wonderful. This, as you may be wondering, who is this handsome gentleman sitting next to me? Who is this?
Listen, I was in the parking lot minding my own business, and you said, come up, we're going to do a live broadcast.
A complete stranger is here helping us today. Not true. This is my husband, J.R. Baker. I'm Connie Baker, for those of you who I'm assuming you know who I am. But so happy to have you with me today. So thrilled. We want to have a chat. Let me see what I need to remind you of. First of all, let me remind you, I have a book out, brand new. Those of you who are watching my page are probably like, yeah, we know. We've heard it 100 times. But yes, it's called Traumatized by Religious Abuse, Courage, Hope, and Freedom for Survivors. And get it on Amazon right now. Just go get it. Just do it. Just get it. You know you want it. So get that book. Boy, what other business do we have going? Yeah, love you to join the community, online community that we have on our Facebook group and the book. So without further ado, what does that word mean?
Well, ado is like a hubbub or
much ado about nothing.
Yeah.
Yes, okay. Yes, without further hubbub, let's start talking. Some very interesting things happened this week. Very interesting. And I would love for you guys to say hello. By the way, if you're coming on, you're welcome to say hello to us. Type it in. And if you don't want to, you don't have to. That's the nice thing. I'm broadcasting on my page, so that means this is not confidential, like our group is a closed group and it stays there. This is for the world to see what you say and how you say it. So just as a reminder to those, especially in my group. So we want to talk a little bit about the new stuff that happened this week with Josh Harris.
Yes.
It's interesting from so many angles, and it's getting quite a bit of social media press, attention. I guess I want to start by talking about how different we all are probably feeling about it. There's probably a wide range.
I'm sure there's a very broad spectrum of reactions and responses across the board.
Right. Very much.
Yeah.
Like what? What do you think?
Well, I'm sure that, like for myself, having gone through a divorce preceded by a painful separation, I hate anytime I hear of somebody going through a divorce. It is awful.
It's a brutal process.
It's a brutal process. I wish Josh and his ex, I don't know, I guess they're separated, not completely divorced.
Yeah, don't know what all that means. Right?
I wish them both well, and I wish them all the health and healing that they can find apart that they didn't necessarily find together.
Right. And that partly comes, we got all kinds of people saying hello. Oh, come on, let me get to these people. Karen, hello. Michelle, hello. Angela, hello. All of you. Yes, Karen says sad. Totally. Absolutely. I think there were some above that, but I can't see. It's not letting us move this here real easily. Okay. I could get on my phone. Yes. And so that's your response. You're wishing them well. Yes. You're like, man, this makes me sad that this even has to be a thing.
Yeah. And it's not my only response. I have several responses that I'm sure many other people have.
And I'm going to out you, because when I said that, your first response was you chuckled. You were like, okay. And I think that's part of some of our response too. I think that was my first response. Oh, that's rich. right? I mean,
Yeah,
and not in a mean way, but it's like, yeah.
Well, and here's the sad part of that is that we dehumanize people who are in the public eye.
Yes.
And say what you want, but Josh Harris became a lightning rod. A very well-known name in evangelical circles and even beyond that. So he became very much a public persona, and so we dehumanize them to a person in
like
a figure in a situation.
Yes.
And so we
but these are real humans.
Right. We lose track of their humanity and the suffering that goes along with anything like this.
Right. So let's look here real quick. Lori, so sad but not surprising. Totally. Were they coupled in the purity culture? Yes. Let's talk about this. Some of you may not realize Josh Harris wrote the book. I
Kissed
Dating Goodbye. That's why I have him here. That right there. What he just did. That's why I have it on this show. Yeah. Yes, he wrote the book I Kissed Dating Goodbye, which was a cornerstone of purity culture.
Right.
And
in many ways, it was the genesis of the modern revival of the purity culture.
Yes, exactly. And yes, thank you for clarifying that, Michelle. Oh, and Michelle, hello there, welcome. So Josh writes this book, and I haven't followed this super closely. So you guys correct us. But he wrote this book, was absolutely foundational, I think, to the purity culture. All the rings, the dances, the super intense, which here's what I am going to take issue with. The super intense, either you are married a virgin and you are worthwhile, or you're married not a virgin and not worthwhile. And they're not going to say it in those words. Sometimes they did. Stuff like used goods. Those terms were thrown around.
And that comes from other places in the purity culture. I don't want to necessarily automatically attribute that to Josh himself, but it was some of the offshoot of what developed, resulting from him laying out his own personal convictions about how he wanted to approach that.
Exactly. And here we got talk already going on, which is where we're heading. He was also the victim of the system, which is what we're getting to. And Michelle says exactly, and says Josh was only 21. Bingo. We're going to talk about all of this. This is part of this discussion. Jessica, hello there. I met him briefly at the sexual abuse conference. And oh, really interesting, Karen. Very cool that you got to meet him. Okay. So Josh writes this book, 21 years old. Love you. If any of you are 21 in here, I'm so glad you're in this group. And we're going to talk about the fact that he was 21. He was telling a whole subculture how to do romantic relationships at 21 years old. Did he have, now here's the systemic part. Did he have a bunch of older adult backup? Big time.
Well, and we say big time because it's the assumption that can be made. I think Josh is probably a very gifted young man. Probably very articulate for his age, and still fully encased in that evangelical system where this mindset was very popular and really sprang up quickly.
And the generation above him was saying, yes, good. We want our kids to not be having sex before marriage. That's fine.
Right.
But they were globbing onto this and saying, look, you've got a peer. 21-year-old saying this.
Yeah, they would hold up the voice or show a video or whatever and say, look, this is a voice from one of your peers saying this is an alternative and actually a preferable alternative to the dating culture.
Actually, a biblical alternative. That was said. And that is where I go, ooh, dear me. So Josh, let's give a quick history. Josh writes this book just a couple of years ago, 2 years ago. When did this come out, you guys? He actually released a public apology because this mentality, let's be fair, for some people it worked, and it worked well.
And has borne fruit in the lives of people that really embraced it and went with it.
Exactly. And it has been extremely destructive in other lives. And so Josh started hearing these stories, and good on him. He started listening and saying, oh my goodness, this hurt people. I didn't want this to hurt people. Issued a public apology. Like a lot of people are debating, well, but he never took back what he said. Okay, but at least there was something in it. Let me look at some comments here real quick. He was about courtship, yes, and that's a whole technical term that he put together. And the subculture said, raised in a spiritual abusive system, homeschooling, and in his dad's church. Totally, Lori, exactly what we're talking. And naive, yes, totally. Hi, Ron, good to have you here. Karen says, emotionally and psychologically delayed development. Yes, well, exactly, and all of us have that at some places. Social development behind. Yes, welcome to Anne. The apologies video came out this year, I believe. Yeah, thank you, Jessica. I think it was. I don't think it was two full years ago. So yeah, you've got this. So you've got this kid
in a system
raised in conservative homeschool system. Mm-hmm. Has that system been helpful for some people? Absolutely. It absolutely has. Yeah. Kids have come through homeschool, contributed hugely, gone on to bear great fruit in life. And that system has absolutely made hamburger of other people, just chewed them up. Right. And so this is the ambiguity part we're talking about here.
Did you want to tell them the title?
What title?
Josh Harris, Ambiguity and Spiritually Abusive Messages.
Systems, right? Abusive systems. Yeah, the title, that's on the thing right now. It's written up there. Exactly. This is where the ambiguity comes in here. And this is where I want to talk about something that those of you who are religious abuse survivors, I want your reactions because you're going to have some. So I'd love it if you're willing to put them out there. Because anytime, when I've done conferences, anytime I talk about this topic, I can feel the air getting sucked out of the room. It's a hard topic. Yeah. And
well, let's be clear. In all fairness to everyone, Josh included, and everybody that's listening, none of us like ambiguity.
No, we love. Show of hands. Raise your hand on here if you're willing to. If you like black and white thinking. Come on now. We know you're out there. Let's take a look. Well, everybody's actually raising their hands if they're mildly honest. He rode the wave of his dad's popularity and narcissism. Yes, well put, Lori. Yeah. Thomas wrote Courtship in Crisis, which really exploded this. Right. Yeah. Oh, excuse me. Explored this. Exploded. Freudian slip on my reading, right, Sherry? Karen's asking who. I'm not sure who you're referring to, Karen. Let us know. Anyway, do any of you out there like black and white thinking or have a history of loving black and white thinking? This black and white thinking comes from our childhood. When we're a child and our mom says, you cannot cross the street without holding mommy's hand, there is a good reason for black and white thinking. Yep. There's a very good reason for it. And it's smart for a little 3 or 4 year old brain to say, I can never cross the street without holding mommy's hand. Yeah. That is appropriate. As we enter adolescence and adulthood, we tend to hold on to those because they're safe, they're secure, they help us navigate life until
they give us structure.
They give us structure until that type of thinking bites our butts. And it will, because it's not how the world is. Do I believe in some black and whites? Yes, I do. But black and white thinking is that polarization where everything, Josh Harris is either all good or all bad.
Mexican food is all good.
Yeah, Mexican food is all good. Well, you would say that. That's part of your black and white thinking right there. He's always loves Mexican food.
Depending on where you go, it could be all bad.
Right, exactly. So this is what we're talking about. I'm not seeing a show of hands here. Come on, people. Sexual shame-based crap and sexual exploitation. Yeah. All right. Thomas Olstad. Okay, good. Thanks for clarifying that, Sherry. Yeah, you guys aren't raising your hands. I know you guys have tendencies toward all or nothing thinking. I know you do.
They're ambivalent about their ambiguity.
They are ambivalent about their ambiguity. I love that. So they're gray about their black and white thinking. Yes. So, okay. So you see, I'm wearing shorts. You can tell. I was going to try to act like I was professionally dressed, but see, there's a knee. I'm wearing shorts.
Could have been a skirt.
A what?
Could have been a skirt.
It was a skirt. Anyway, so this is what we're dealing with here. What people have a hard time hearing is that when we are a part of an abusive system, when we are part of a religious system that is rigid, authoritarian, patriarchal, inflexible, and
ensconced from the rest of the world.
And ensconced from the rest of the world. Anytime we are deeply embedded in that type of system, we are perpetuators of the abuse.
Right.
And that's where us survivors go, oh, no, I'm not. I am not like that narcissistic pastor that screwed me over and just left me bleeding. I am not like that. And you know what? I get that. I totally get why we have a defensive reaction to that. When I went through my worst abuse at 25 at the church I was at, I had watched them excommunicate people. I had watched them publicly shame people and, talk about their name and their sin. And I was a flag-waving member of that church. I was like, this church is awesome.
Right. And there was probably part of your belief that said what they're doing is ultimately for this person's good.
Absolutely.